If there's any news story that you'd think would bring us together these days, it would be the announcement last night of a killing of a dangerous terror leader involved in the 9/11 attacks. But somehow, our politicized media and leaders have turned this seemingly unifying event into just another opportunity to pit the red team against the blue team. And instead of a rare moment of national relief, you have the continuing efforts at division, leaving what I call the marginalized moderate majority frustrated again. Last night, President Biden announced the killing of Ayman al-Zawahiri, the leader of al-Qaeda, who on 9/11 was Osama bin Laden's second in command. Al-Zawahiri may have been the single top target of U.S. officials. He was an architect of the USS Cole bombing as well as a 9/11 mastermind, and he took over as al-Qaeda's leader just after bin Laden was killed in 2011. Awful guy, big win for the country. But somehow the most extreme in the conservative media saw this moment as an opportunity to bash Biden and U.S. policy.
Republicans are slamming the president this morning as he tries to take a victory lap over the killing of an al-Qaeda leader. This is a distraction to take our attention away from what is taking place in China.
Let me throw some cold water on this. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical that a year after the disastrous U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, this happens. I'd like to know how this happened. How did it happen? How did it happen now? Do we know Zawahiri was really killed? There's no Western media on the ground to confirm this.
If you're Joe Biden, if you think about it, it takes a lot of brass to brag about Afghanistan or even mention the word. Biden gave a speech boasting that he's killed an al-Qaeda figure in Afghanistan. Great. Feel safer? Of course you don't. Nobody does.
Come on. Look, I've been critical of the administration's decision to withdraw from Afghanistan, and I was critical of how it was executed. But the point is, Ayman al-Zawahiri is dead. That's good. Period. These days, it seems when there's a Democratic president in the White House, even the killing of the top terrorist is not enough for Fox to take a break from the partisan finger-pointing. And the reaction was similar among some top conservatives in Washington. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy tweeted, "We owe a debt of gratitude to the brave Americans who took out the terrorist al-Zawahiri. The Biden administration must provide Congress with a briefing as soon as possible to discuss the resurgence of al-Qaeda in the region following his disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan." How are we not all on the same page on this one today? And while the extreme right is the guilty party here, on this one can understand why many on the right would find the fawning over President Biden's speech from the far-left media to be overkill, to say the least.
President Joseph Robinette Biden making the announcement that the CIA has killed Ayman al-Zawahiri. President Biden ending that very brief set of remarks with an ode to those innocent victims lost on 9/11, a very poignant, very Joseph Biden-style ode to those victims.
Oh, he's like Liam Neeson, right? I will find you and I will kill you.
Now, I'm guessing if this had happened during the Trump administration, that they would be reacting just a little differently. Can you imagine a beaming Joy Reid raving about a press conference from Donald John Trump? Look, it again goes back to the idea we've been discussing on this show, that the politicized media needs to ensure that every story has a winner and, most importantly, a loser. But you see, there should be no American losers here on this particular story, on this day. Americans are better off today than they were yesterday, knowing that Ayman al-Zawahiri is no longer a threat. Any attempt on the part of the far right to downplay that, I think, is bad for America and a disservice to us all. Joining us now is Claudia Rosett. She's a foreign policy fellow with the Independent Women's Forum, former longtime staff writer for the Wall Street Journal. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right, so do you think I'm being unfair to the right on this?
Well, a bit. Okay, I don't like these endless politicized attacks that go on in our politics either. But I think you're being unfair in the following way. We can certainly celebrate the killing of Ayman al-Zawahiri. I mean, he was a monster.
Yep.
At the same time, this administration put it in a context where, if you look at the briefing that a senior administration official gave at the White House, if you look at the way that the president presented it in his speech, that said, really things are fine, they're under control in Afghanistan, our over-the-horizon capability works, and basically, you know, everything's fine, folks. It was sort of set up there as if this summed up all this huge surrounding context. And you can certainly raise a glass. I mean, it's good that he's gone, that this monster is gone, but the context does matter. And one thing that jumped out at me, I get tired of the endless optics. Part of the disaster last year in Afghanistan was the attempt to have the optics of getting out of there by September 11th, the 20th anniversary.
I agree.
And this, to me, this is a question, okay, not an assertion that I'm making, but the timing of this announcement and killing was awfully useful and lucky for the administration. The anniversary of the fall of Kabul is coming up in mid-August, and 2 weeks before that, out comes this piece of news.
Let me ask you about that, because it just seems to me that any time someone would have an excuse for why it's a bad time. Oh, did you see this is coming right before the midterms? Oh, did you see this is coming, right after this happened? I mean, there's always an excuse to come up with a conspiracy theory about why it suddenly happened now, right? I mean, there would have to be a lot of people involved here in a conspiracy to make sure that Ayman al-Zawahiri gets killed on this week at this time, and it's going to come out if that happens.
Actually, no. If you look at the way that they described it in the White House background briefing, what they said was they kind of had a fix on him in April.
Yeah.
And then they studied and they went on. In the background briefing, they give, I'm sorry, but it was a ludicrous amount of detail on how the president was interested in every aspect of the building, the construction materials. I mean, I was amazed he didn't ask about the kitchenware. And then finally they give the order. And may I tell you how I think they should have done this? Okay, and maybe that would help because you're right, there's always something, but 2 weeks before the first anniversary, that is just when I'd position it if I were trying to gloss over the horrors that happened.
But you would concede that there's no evidence, even from the background briefing, that this was somehow done, that was called off earlier. Right? I mean, that's what you're not suggesting, you're asking.
I'm saying it's a question.
Right, I understand. But the problem with asking questions is you can ask questions about anything, right? We see this all the time in the politicized media. People ask questions where there really is no evidence to suggest it. They say, I'm just going to ask questions. And the problem is there's no evidence at all to suggest that this was some conspiracy because it would be a conspiracy. If this was an intentional effort to ensure that Ayman al-Zawahiri got killed, as you point out, 2 weeks before the anniversary. That would be a major conspiracy, but there's no evidence to suggest that. It's just, you're just asking the questions, right? Am I being unfair?
Yeah, it would be an optics PR stunt. I'm not sure it would be a conspiracy, but here's what I think they should have done. Whenever they found it most useful, the optimal moment to kill him, once they had a fix on him, instead of saying, this proves everything is fine and we've got this capability, they could have come out and said, we have major problems still in Afghanistan, which you can find in the latest UN monitoring report on this. They talk about, quote, major concerns with the establishment of terrorist groups in Afghanistan, especially since the U.S. retreat. He could have said, President Biden could have said, there is still a growing danger there. And we've given you this one case. We got this slam bam terrific hit, but understand the context.
But why give a but? I mean, but that's my question, is why? Because I would support any president, Bush, Trump, Obama, whoever it is, when you get this kind of win, to simply say, I'm going to go out, I'm going to celebrate, maybe the wrong word, but any of them would do that. Any of them would say, we got him. We got him. And, Yahoo, and I would say about any president, good for that president. Meaning, I don't care if that president gets the credit, the CIA gets the credit, whoever gets the credit, the bottom line is it's good for America. And I just wish that, prominent people like yourself and others would say, that's it. It's good for America, period. End of story. You get the final word.
What do you say the next day? Because, unfortunately, this administration squandered an enormous amount of credibility. They did that last year in Afghanistan, where they told us it wouldn't happen, it would be fine, it was okay, no one was left behind. Every step of that way, you lose credibility. And it does happen in a context. And we did last evening raise a glass to celebrate.
Yeah.
This was a good thing that happened. But there is the question of what happens tomorrow. And we're dealing in a very dangerous world. May I just say, I don't think it's a conspiracy that Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan. I'm glad she did. On the same, and it will wake up there on the same day as her husband's arraignment for drunk driving in California. But it's
so you think she went to Taiwan because of her husband's drunk driving incident?
No, I think there's much more to it.
Okay.
But
anyway,
I'm
I said
saying,
you get the final word, and I gave it to you.
Yeah.
But this is a good conversation, and I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate this kind of dialogue, because I think this is the kind of thing we need to have more of in this country.
I'm all for that.
Claudia.
You know what I'm basically for is honesty in government. Share with us the good and the bad.
Come on
That's
back.
good.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.